The Paint Box with Nyle Gordon is brought to you by Jaeger Coffee House in downtown Macon.
Hello, welcome to the Paint Box. Thanks for tuning in. We're in Ethel, Missouri. I'm Nyle Gordon. I'm a painter, and I've been painting for about 9 years and teaching for about 7. Recently started a class in Macon, Missouri at Jaeger Coffee House. And today I'm going to be showing you a little bit about how to start a quick, informal portrait. Anytime I do a portrait, I usually want to take my own photographs. That's not always possible, but I have done portraits from photographs that people have taken. But the selection of the photograph is pretty important. This particular portrait I'm going to do today is based on this photo of my son, and it's about when he was about 7 or 8 years old. He's got kind of a pleasant expression. The lighting's pretty good. I had considered a couple others. The lighting on this was actually a little more interesting. He had more shadow, but his expression was a little crinkled up, and I wasn't so crazy about that. This was a nice, pleasant expression. He's smiling. He's not showing any teeth. Teeth are a little bit more complex. But I felt like he was in too much full sun and not as much shadow. Here he's got a little more sober expression, same lighting. So this photo here, I felt like it had everything. It had a nice, pleasant expression, but it's about 1/3 shadow to about 2/3 light, sunlight. And of course, the color in a photo like this is never that great. Your eyes can see a lot more color than a camera can, and then the processing of the film, of course, you lose even more color. So with each generation, it goes down, you lose color. So the photo really is just a reference for values, darks and lights, and just a loose color reference. Your color is really dependent on the artist. So that's your understanding of color, and your practice and whatever you can learn about color is going to help you when it comes to actually creating the portrait. So we're just going to get started. I'm going to clip this to my board. Keep it real handy here to where I can not waste a lot of energy looking back and forth. I've got several brushes here. I like to start off with a brush that's about the size of the iris of the eye. I've made a quick sketch of this. A lot of times I will not start with a sketch. I'll paint from life, which is really preferable because the colors is better. Like I said earlier, the painting from a photo, the color is not as good from the photos. I'm starting out with just a dark. This is a burnt umber. This is Indian red. Next to it I've got raw umber. These are my browns, so burnt umber, red, Indian red, and yellow ochre, I'm sorry. But just for the pupil, no matter what the eye color is, I will usually start with a dark, and if somebody has blue eyes, I'll just paint in a little blue on top of the dark later on. But for a quick portrait like this, it's just that. It's a quick portrait. It's not a finished formal portrait, and you want to just get more of an impression, and it has a whole different feel and style than a kind of a master's style portrait. I'll put a couple little highlights on his face, and then I think we're gonna quit. I'm gonna go with a little pink. My palette's getting pretty dirty. I'm getting where I can't, a little short on real estate here. I'm going to have a nice clean spot to mix some highlights. So I'm going to mix up a pink, really light pink, and then I'll probably mix a really light yellow, and then the combination of those ought to do it. It has to be really light though. I've kind of boxed myself in here. I've got a very light value here on the nose, so in order to put a highlight on it, it's not going to really show up unless it's almost pure white. Now it is a slightly dirty value, or kind of cool, so when this warm highlight should show up on top of it if I get it light enough. Yeah, it's barely showing there, which is okay as long as it shows up. Okay, I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but that's okay. I'm gonna then put a highlight right on the top of his cheek here. Just brings out the form a little bit. I did that in a vertical shape because that's the way that, and then over here I'm gonna do a horizontal highlight in the same color. It's important to have them in different directions to keep things from being too monotonous. I'm going to mix up a little lemon yellow into that pink, warm that highlight up. It's not going to change the value very much, just the temperature of it. I'm going to put this way up high on his forehead. Give himself a little kind of a shiny sunlit feel. Might put a tad down here. I'm darkening it just a little bit on the chin. And then I'm going to give him a little of a warm highlight on his lip, his lower lip. I'm just going to make it barely lighter than what it's already there. I don't want him to I don't want it to show up too much. Okay, and that'll actually create, it looks kind of flat now. The lower lip looks kind of flat, and this should make it look a little bit more rounded. But position of it is important. I'm going to go just a little bit lighter than that. Okay. Let's see if that'll do it. That kind of makes his lip a little more three-dimensional. Let's see, one little thing. I'm always finding little things. I can improve it just a tiny bit. I'm going to put a little bit more of a, turn the corner of his mouth up just here a little bit. Makes him just a little sweeter. And then soften that a little bit. And then the same thing on the other side. Make it a little darker. And turn it up just a little bit more. Well, that's about it. That is a quick, loose approach to portraiture. It's a perfectly valid way to do a portrait. You do not have to have lots and lots of detail, and it's a lot more fun than doing a formal portrait. And so we're going to stop there, and we could even sign it. I'll go ahead and sign it. I like to use this liner, or this is a rigger brush. And I'll just mix up some real thin paint. And I'm going to sign this. Make sure it's legible. I'm going to put a little date on there. 13. And that's it. So I want to thank you for tuning in. Next time, I think we're going to start on a landscape. We're not going to copy this picture. It's a painting that I've done in the past. I called it Barn on the Sheraton. It's a, I'm going to grab it here. It is based on some observations, but it is mostly a lot of imagination used here. This was mostly done with a palette knife. What I'd like to do next time is show you how to approach this landscape. I'm going to simplify these clouds a little bit because they're a little bit too complex to do it in an hour. But hopefully we can approach an image that's kind of similar in color and approach. So I want to thank you for tuning in. See you next time.
The Paint Box with Nyle Gordon is brought to you by Jaeger Coffee House in downtown Macon.